Hey everyone, it's Abby. I've been wanting a Victorian cycling sweater with the large puff sleeves ever since I saw them make the rounds on Instagram a couple years ago. I had thought it was going to be extremely hard, so I put it off. I recently started knitting again, my first time since my early 20s. I've been quickly making my way through a lot of new knitting techniques that I haven't tried before, so I decided it was time to try my hand at the cycling sweater. Now, my channel is not a knitting channel, so I won't be showing the entire process of knitting this sweater. The great thing about this knitting pattern is it's created in panels. I will be sewing the whole thing together, similar to a fabric pattern. So let's get knitting!
I'm using the 1897 Butterick knitting pattern that was reformulated by Kelsey Patton. I'll have a link in the description. I'm using 100% British wool yarn for this project in green and lime colors. I have to roll all the skeins into balls before using them. I bought 14 100-gram skeins of the green and 2 of the lime. I got a bit too much just in case. I'm casting on my stitches on my larger needles. The pattern asks for larger and smaller ones. The great thing about this pattern is you could get pre-knitted fabric and create it without knowing how to knit. Lopsy on YouTube has done this, as well as some others. Link is in the description.
So, I figured we'd do something a little different today. Since I have a lot of knitting to do and you can really knit without having to pay attention too much, especially at this stage where it's just a rib stitch, I figured I'd just have a chat about some things. So I am adding some lime colored stripes, and this is the back. I need to create 2 of these, one for the front and one for the back. The front has buttonholes and the back does not. And then there are plackets that go at the shoulder on the back to kind of fill the gap. And then the 2 large sleeves will be knit in flat pieces as well. I use smaller needles for certain bits like the shaping of the waist. If you used knitted fabric, you would bring it in and somehow bind it off that way. I have not really bound off pre-knit fabric before, but it feels like if you cut it wide enough, you could sew it and then bind it off with maybe some bias tape. I'm not sure. I'd have to look that up. But yeah, so let's just knit and have a chat. I had some friends asking kind of recently how I stay motivated and how I'm just so fast at all these things. And motivation is weird because everyone has different ways of feeling and staying motivated. And mine might not really work for everyone. So the way I get really obsessed with projects, like overly so, like sometimes in detriment to like regular person tasks. But I also really enjoy projects that I can sit and just watch TV and just hang out on the couch with the dogs or chair, as the case may be. And to me, it's just the mindless repetitiveness of either knitting or hand sewing just makes it really easy to not have to pay attention to it for the most part, unless you've got a design that you really have to pay attention to. But even then, you can find a way to make it easier to remember. And over time, like, you just kind of do it automatically, I guess. But I've been knitting a lot recently just because it made things easier. Like, I could sit there and do things with my hands, but pay attention to what's going on around me type thing. When it comes to motivation though, I feel like it has to be something I'm excited about or that I've researched. And I usually do a ton of research on like Pinterest and Instagram and Google and just various places. And I get a lot of inspiration, and then I get like the bug for a certain project. So since I got to the UK, I have mostly had the bug for just like everyday clothing because I needed to round out my wardrobe. So that's why I ended up making like the hoodie and sweatpants, and I've made a couple summer dresses, and I'm about to make a couple more summer dresses. And then obviously the Welsh weekend tea gown was because I was going to the Welsh weekend. And I also have a bunch of fabrics that are waiting for projects. But I tend to choose the projects by how I'm feeling, and also like what is coming up, like what kind of things I have coming up. And all this knitting, it started because I really liked a shawl on Instagram and I wanted to give it a shot, and it's the middle of summer and yet I'm knitting. I don't know. I'm a little odd. But all of these knitting things will be useful very soon when the weather gets cold. So it's not like I won't be wearing them. It's just I've been making them all, and then I will wear them in like 3 months or so, I guess. You know. But I don't know. I've just been feeling really motivated to knit because I had wanted to get back into it, and the cycling sweater was like really big on my mind, so I got really into it and made a whole bunch of stuff, and then I was like, it is time to start the sweater. So there we go. But as to staying motivated, I don't know, I tend to, not just with this project, but with others, I think I tend to start with the hardest parts first, because as the project goes on, the parts will get easier and easier, and if I have less and less motivation to finish the project, at least the parts are easier than the initial bits. So I can just sit down for an hour or two and do a bit and then stop if I'm not feeling motivated. Another way that I stay invested is I have multiple projects going on. I have like a list of things that I really want to do. I have various different parts of projects that I can do. Like I can sit there and cut out pattern pieces, because that takes a lot of time. I can research fabrics for certain projects online. I can figure out what accessories I need. I can iron a whole bunch of fabrics at once, all that kind of thing. And I really hate like cutting out the pieces of fabrics or cutting out the pieces of patterns. So that is a motivation blocker a lot of times for starting a project. So I just kind of have to force myself to start. And the way I am, if I start something, then I get kind of into it and obsessed. So it's the starting part that's the hardest part. So I just have to kind of make some time and be like, okay, I'm starting. Even if it's just laying the fabric out and pinning the pieces and not cutting, or if it's ironing the fabric or doing just little things to get it started, like cutting out the pattern pieces. And sometimes that's all you can do in a day is cut out the pattern pieces or cast on your project, or even just cut out the pieces and stack them up for the next time you feel motivated. I don't know. There's so many ways, but for me, I tend to just get a singular focus once I get started. And like, I have this tunnel vision that I want to speed up more and more the closer to the end of the project, because I want to finish really bad. And like near the end of a project, I'll be like, oh my God, I'm so excited to start this other project. So I'm like in this middle zone where I'm feeling really productive, but I'm not done with this project yet, but I want to start this other project. So I don't know, I think I get like just a bout of motivation from actually doing as well. It's kind of an odd one. But I don't know, with this particular project, it's been going really quickly, actually. This is the result of about a day's worth of work, and I think it's about a third of the way there. I think the sleeves are going to take some more time because they're a bit longer and a bit bigger. So I think the sleeves are going to be where all the time is, but there's a lot of ribbing, so it's not going to be difficult. There's not weird parts of it or whatever. You kind of just have to start, and then you kind of get going, and 2-3 hours have passed and you're like, oh my god, I thought it had only been 5 minutes. So at least that's how it is for me. I did it this way even before the pandemic, but when the pandemic hit, my sewing projects were really the only thing that were keeping me going because there was nothing going on. I had no events to make anything for. I had no friends to hang out with. I just had me and my fabric, and my husband and I were both working still, and then but it was from home, so it's like nothing to do but talk to each other, the dogs, and my projects. So I got really motivated during the pandemic to get into historical costuming, and that's why I was so motivated to make a ton of stuff all at once, because I didn't have anything yet. I needed the underpinnings, I needed to do the research for everything, I needed to get bits of everything going. But now that I have all that, I've been having a really hard time motivating myself to make the second bodice for this dress, or to make some of the, because I really want to find really good projects for some of the silks that I have, but I don't want to cut into it with the wrong project. So I've been kind of putting those ones on the back burner. But I also have a new large project to do with my husband's Regency outfit. I got all the fabric for that. So that's going to be an exciting one, because I have not made men's Regency clothing before, nor have I done any tailored jackets before. And I'm also going to be making a wool coat for myself for winter, because I left behind a really fun green wool coat that I added fur to, and my friend gave me a vintage fur coat that I want to turn into trim for that, and also trim for a 1890s winter outfit. So I've got a lot of exciting projects in the future. I just have to actually get started on them. Like I said, the laying out of fabric and cutting out is the hardest part. So I think that's why I've been focusing on the knitting, because it's been a distraction from having to cut out all of those projects. But I do think with this particular one, I might start with the easier projects first, just to get myself going. So for my husband's Regency outfit, I need to make him everything: the shirt, the waistcoat, the coat, the trousers. So I think I'm going to start with the shirt, since I've done that before, and then I will see what I'm motivated to do next. I think I also have some fabric for another shirt for me out of white, so that I have a second shirt waist to wear with my 1890s and Edwardian stuff. So that will be kind of nice. And then I have some fabric for a summer dress that I really want to do, and I also have leftover linen from my green linen dress. There's pink and green linen that I want to make a couple shirts out of, but I'll probably just do that in downtime and not really for the channel. Like, some of the stuff I make just doesn't end up on the channel because it's kind of boring and I've done it before or something like that. So I don't always film everything. I almost always film everything. Don't get me wrong. But more recently, like the knitting stuff I haven't filmed, and I probably won't film the linen shirts, that kind of thing. But I definitely film all of the historical costuming stuff because it's so interesting and new that I haven't done before, or on this channel, that is. So, but as you can see, I am a left-hand knitter. Apparently that's not particularly very popular in the UK. I think it's called continental knitting. I think normally a lot of knitters use the right hand to throw the yarn over the needle, but my mom taught me how to do it using the left hand, so that's the way I know, and I think it would be really difficult to learn the other way because I've been doing it this way the whole time. I also had to relearn how to purl because I was doing it wrong since my childhood. And I was accidentally purling like twisted, which made my stitches on the inside look all twisted, but the outside ones were fine. I don't know. There's weird things with knitting, and I've learned a whole lot from just the projects I've been doing over the past month or two. A lot of projects, but you can see a lot of them on Instagram and that kind of thing. But yeah, so this is what I'm going to be doing for a little while. Just knitting away, and then shortly you will see how I sew them together, because that will be the next part. So I will see you shortly. Well, the front and the back weren't too bad. Maybe 3 days tops each. The sleeves are taking forever.
Knitting all the pieces of this sweater took what felt like forever. In reality, it was only a little over 2 weeks of work for me. If I hadn't been focusing so hard on finishing, it would have taken a lot longer. I definitely was getting tired of knitting rib during the large sleeve sections. I didn't have enough space to block everything at once, so I started with the body sections and the shoulder plackets. Then I blocked the large sleeve sections, plus fingerless gloves that I did as a side project. I do a lot of those with the extra yarn. Once the pieces were dry from blocking, it's time to assemble my sweater. I read the directions a few times to decipher them, and it's still difficult to figure out. I start mattress stitching the body pieces up along the sides. I continue sewing the body pieces up. I use matching yarn and a large tapestry needle. I sew the shoulder placket on under the back piece with a whip stitch. I pin the shoulders at the top with a double-sided knitting needle. I mattress stitch the sleeve sections together next. I find the center of the top of the sleeve and pleat each side down following the directions. I baste the pleats together. I found this to be easier to work with as it's hard to pin knit fabric, and there's a lot of fabric to pleat into a very little space. I mattress stitch the sleeve onto the arm side of the main body, matching up the bottom and the tops. I tried to follow the pattern's directions for adding length, but somehow it didn't work right, so I didn't get the waist at the right spot and the sleeves ended up larger than I was expecting. I also had a hard time figuring out what size to make the arm size, so I had to redo it off camera and add a couple inches at the bottom. I hand sew the buttons where the buttonholes are. When trying on the sweater, I realized it was stretching more than I wanted, so at the suggestion of some friends, I pinned stay tape along the shoulder and neck sections on both sides. This is a great way to keep things from stretching that you don't want to stretch, especially with how heavy the sleeves are. I hand sew the tape in place with a whip stitch and matching thread. And there we go, a completed Victorian cycling sweater. Even though it's a little big, it still looks great, and it will be very cozy in the cold.
Thank you for joining me today as I made my Victorian cycling sweater. I'm so excited I finally got around to making this. I really want to make another one with a different stripe pattern at some point. I also want to make a wool walking skirt that will go well with this sweater. I just have to find the perfect fabric. If you liked this video and want to see more sewing and costume videos, remember to subscribe to my channel. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments below. Happy sewing! Coming up, coming. Here I am. Here we go. There it is. Okay. That's a good girl. There we go. She's a good girl. You gonna knit with me?